Now, live from Southern Florida, it's My Southern Exposure. Now, here's your host, Joe Alvello.
Welcome back to My Southern Exposure. It is our second season. Raji?
Yes, darling. I'm here. And I'm eating on pickles. They're delicious. You know, you really know how to make some pickles, Joseph.
Can you put your microphone on mute for just 1 minute?
Oh, I thought you might have wanted me to crunch a little bit for the audience, but I could put it on mute. Yeah, what the hell? Let's see here. You know, I'm like proficient in a lot of things, but when it comes to technology, I'm a little duh. But if I can only see the mouse, that's the problem. Let's see.
1 second, folks.
It's with the light is making a difference.
We'll figure it out. Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you just fine, Joe, and I don't think you have to worry about muting her. She's fine, so just go with it.
Oh, that's good. All right, so welcome to season number 2 of My Southern Exposure, episode number 1. And I want to thank the over 60,000 viewers at home that have watched the show so far. This is the first time that we're doing a 2-person in-studio thing at my little home studio. I had to slick back my hair and try to make myself look pretty. And we have the best technical director, or I should say producer, out there, Marty Allen, up in Ohio. So he's going to help us with everything. So Mick's back there giving the hands, and so is Raji. And to be honest with you, I don't know if everyone can see her or not, but her video looks amazing, just like it is. And I made some special pickles for her. It was really simple. I made my own brine. She likes spicy food. And that was part of me bribing her to come over today, was if she was going to have some pickles and some nice ice water and some nachos and cheese. So at one point during the show, I'm going to leave so I can make some nachos and cheese for her. Anyways, long story short, welcome to everybody who's here. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of serious topics. We're going to talk about education. We're also going to talk about the election. There's a lot of other things as well. COVID, trans updates. There's so much to talk about, as well as the homeless updates as well. We're going to figure out how to navigate through this together. Raji, over to you.
Well, am I muted or am I not muted? I think you all can hear me. Okay, good. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Southern Exposure. And this is going to be a fun show. I can feel it in my bones. This pickle, by the way, is delicious. And you know what? Listen to the crunch. You did a good job, Joseph. This is the only reason I'm here, because when he told me he was going to make me some homemade pickles, I was like, okay, I'm coming over. So I'm looking forward to this show. We have a lot of juicy stuff, like this pickle in my mouth. And there's so many things to talk about. I want to talk about Kamala Harris. Yes, I do. I got to put my 2 cents in about her. So on that note, I'll send it over to Mickey.
Thanks for that, Raji. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone is staying cool. I know it's been very hot in a lot of parts of the country this past week. Here in Los Angeles, it's been especially scorching. It's been up in the 90s certain days of the week. In fact, I think even today it's in the 90s. It's hard to tell just because it really just is perpetually hot out here at this point. That's kind of been the all-consuming concern out here in California, because with that heat has come a lot of wildfires. So that's something that has been a concern for people out here in California as well. And then that just coupled with the pandemic that is going on, the current discussions that we're having about police brutality and racist policing systems here in this country, all of that kind of combines together, and it is a worrisome time to be alive, is a way to put it lightly. There just is so much going on right now, and a lot of it is very bleak. If you've been paying attention, especially to what happened in Portland recently, where a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters were attacked by a group of Proud Boys and other far-right groups up in Portland, where the police didn't do anything to stop the far-right protesters from attacking Black Lives Matter protesters, but they did do everything in their power to make sure that Black Lives Matter protesters were detained, vilified, and basically just harassed by these people. That doesn't kind of let you know that, like, the far right and policing kind of go hand in hand. I don't really know what to tell you. Don't support the police. Don't support the far right. Support the Black Lives Matter movement. That's just something that I just wanted to start with right now, but I'm going to throw that back over to Joseph now. We're going to get started.
Oh, and I got to say this, Mickey reminded me. I also want to talk about the 3 trans girls that were attacked. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about that too. So anyway, back to Joseph.
Thank you so much, Raji. I appreciate that you both are talking about topics that we all need to know about. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of things that are going on in the world are not convenient things to talk about. There are so many things that most of the news reporting agencies are underreporting. Apparently, Mick is super hot, and he says he's fine by me, I think. Say fine by me. And then that's what it says on your shirt, by the way. Gay, fine by me. It's perfect. But also, Raji is hot under the collar, and I'm hot under the collar as well. But I had to cinch myself into this little teeny tiny shirt to make myself look better than I actually do. But for the audience, everyone already knows me. The facts are that with Black Lives Matter, we have a wonderful opportunity to try to help the trans community and everybody who is of color. And there was someone, I don't want to say the person's name, and I don't want to call out the actual radio station, but myself and other people who are connected to my show know about the importance of people who are talking negatively about people of color and also people who are gay. So in Cincinnati, Ohio, there was a horrible video, I should say audio and also video clip of a sportscaster who used the F word. And the F word, for all of us, we know what that means. And then there was also the negative term in Cleveland, Ohio, used by a sportscaster, news reporter, what have you, of a major news station up there, which just by chance, I know the director of that station as well, that they were fired because they talked and said something that seemed flippant to them, but it had a really negative impact. They use the word, I don't even want to say it, so it's an old term, so I'm not going to use it, but they refer to African American people in a negative fashion. So we have negative words that are being used for African Americans. We have negative words that are being used and just said out loud on a regular basis. And I can't say the reason why that's happening per se, but I think part of our current political climate is making people more emboldened to speak like the person who, quote unquote, is in charge. It doesn't make a difference to me if you're Republican or Democrat, to be honest with me, at all. But if you're going to say things that are negative about any race or creed, then it's not a good thing. And if you're going to vilify or try to make gay people take 30 steps backwards, as opposed to all of the work that we've done thus far trying to move forward, it's definitely something of concern for me. Raji or Mick, who wants to chime in first so I can myself, if you're going to go first, Raji.
I'm here. Can you hear me, everyone? I'm getting this technology thing down, so bear with me. Yeah, I did hear about that. And you know, the thing that really disturbs me is that as soon as I think that we are like making some great strides in our equality as LGBT people and as people of color, then some idiot comes along that's in the public's eye and makes a derogatory statement or comment or uses a word that's not socially acceptable. And so then it makes me think, God, like, really, are we as far as I thought we were? And it's one of those things like 3 steps forward, 2 steps backwards, and I've seen this throughout my life and throughout my activism for my community. I mean, like, you know, it'll be some great accomplishment or some great movement in equality for us, and then boom, here comes something that sets us back a few steps. So it really is one of those things where even though we've come a long way, I know that we still have a very long way to go. And that just inspires me to keep doing my activism and to just keep working towards, I would hope one day there'll be a world of true equality and equity for all people. I know there's a lot of people out there that probably are looking at me thinking, bitch, you're crazy. It's never going to happen. But you know what? I think it's the first step is at least to have hope and faith, and you work towards it. And, you know, maybe we'll get there one day. It might not be in my lifetime, but when it's all said and done for my life, I want to go knowing that I at least made an effort, that I at least tried to do something about it, because you could sit down all day and complain and cry about the way things are, or you can stand up and try and do something about it. And so that's my motto. To try and do something about it. And little by little, I think if we all work towards this equality for all, maybe one day we will get there. Mickey, you've been on the front lines with the, protesting and everything. What are your thoughts? I'm like curious to hear what you have to say on this.
Oh, definitely. I think what you bring up is an important thing to sort of think about, because there are so many instances where you think like, all right, we've made such strides, like things are going to get better. It's going to get better. That it just has to be. But as we've seen very recently, especially in the last 4 years, like that is not the case. I'm glad that you brought up as well the story of the 3 trans women who were attacked on Hollywood Boulevard that happened a few nights ago out here. The women's names are Eden Estrada, Jasleen Boussanet, and Jocelyn Allen. These 3 trans women were just minding their own business on Hollywood Boulevard, which, as everyone knows, is just a very heavily trafficked boulevard out here in Los Angeles. And they were attacked by, I believe it was 6 different men. And their attack was recorded, and as they were being attacked, no one was helping them. People were pointing at them, they were laughing at them, and these women were literally being attacked on the street. Someone threw an electric scooter at them. It was monstrous what happened. And one thinks, oh, well, here out in the liberal enclave of California, that stuff doesn't happen. And it's like, no, that stuff very much does happen. It happened literally just the other day. And no one really did anything. So there actually was a march this past Thursday that I went to with my friend Jack in honor of those women and in defense of those women and all trans people out here in California, not just in California, but the world over, which it is very inspiring to see that there were quite a few people out for this march. And I'm glad to see that there were some new people out there. But this, again, is something that I think it's very easy to get complacent about the idea, like, oh, I've done my activism for the day, or like, all right, like people are finally cool with like gay people getting married, like everything's okay. For example, I remember back in 2015 when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage. I was very excited about it, obviously, as many people are. And it was a reason to celebrate. And I remember I was talking with a good friend of mine, and she specifically works in women's healthcare. She is training to be a doula right now. So she is very well versed in what is going on in terms of women's health and reproductive rights and abortion rights within this country. And I remember talking to her and being like, I just feel really great. Like, it just seems like everything is going so well. And like, we're finally gonna like get rid of all of these like shitty politicians, and like people are really just on the right track. And she immediately was just like, I'm gonna have to shut you down right there. Just because we have this victory with gay rights does not mean that things are getting better. Abortion rights are under attack across this country right now, and no one is talking about that. As someone who has done a lot of work with Planned Parenthood, I see firsthand that these terrible laws are getting put into place by politicians, and no one is talking about them because people have this misguided notion that just because like we have Obama in office, and that since we have now we're allowed, like gay people are allowed to get married, that we've made these huge strides and that everything is okay, and we get really complacent. And it forced me to look back and realize, okay, yeah, no, I have taken some of these victories for granted, and I wrongfully assumed that, thinking like, all right, like we're on the right track here, because if God, you would probably have never even, if you were in a coma starting from 2010 and you woke up in 2020, you probably, based on what is all happening right now, you probably would not have thought, oh, at some point halfway through my coma, the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage. You probably wouldn't think that because of the way that the country looks right now. So I think that that's something important to think about. And I think that it's important for us to realize that there's still a lot of strides to go. And as Raji said, it might not be something that we see in any of our lifetimes, but that doesn't mean that it's not important to fight for it, because every human being has a right to live their life to the fullest and live their life free of discrimination and free of hardships that are put in place by racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia. All of the isms need to be done away with. But I think that that's something that just a lot of us just really do need to think about for ourselves and examine for ourselves, because that is how I think it has, quote unquote, gotten so bad, because we've ignored it for so long. But I'm going to throw it back to Joseph now, because I have been talking for a while.
Thank you very much, Mick, and thank you very much, Raji, as well. I think both of you brought up great topics, and part of what we do on a regular basis is talk about things more in depth than other people do, because it's not comfortable for them to do that, because their advertising dollars come in from big pharmacy or giant corporations and everything else out there. Considering the current climate, there's a lot of advertising being done by also every political party that's out there, whether it's Democratic or Republican. There's a lot of ads that are flying around with a lot of misinformation, misdirection. And I don't want to talk about politics specifically, but I do want to address the fact of the election. The election is under special, I should say, I don't know the correct term to use, extra special scrutiny, I think would be the proper term to use. That in 2016, we already know that things did not work out properly. And even though a lot of people like myself and others believe that the entire election was a fraud, we're stuck with our current situation. And now we're going into a new election. And part of my concern is that 3 to 6 months ago, the United States election, I should say, the United States Postal Service started to be dismantled under the current administration. And it's disturbing for a lot of different reasons. Number one, people needed their medicine. Number two, people needed to get their checks from the federal government for stimulus payments and whatnot. And now the Democratic, I should say, or I don't know the correct term to use, Congress, the people that are in control of Congress happen to be mostly Democratic. But however, 26 Republicans agreed with the Democrats to go ahead and push through, I think it was 25 or $35 billion to fund or I should say, help fund the Postal Service. And it's fallen on deaf ears in many different ways, which is quite disturbing, because number one, I've seen photos just like you and everyone else at home possibly has, that they've started to remove the little collection containers everyone goes to, you just drop off your letter and then you're good to go when you go home. And there's a lot of people that are concerned about those disappearing all across the United States, not just in one state. And then the other part is the actual automated system that it's like a computer system, but it separates the mail. They removed a lot of those also as well. And that all happened within the last 6 months while we're all stumbling with COVID. All of those changes have happened, which all of those things are slowing down the mail. And it's also slowing down the potential of people being able to vote. So the reason why I brought up the topic of voting is that I'm concerned with both of those things. So I'm going to pass it over to Raji and mute myself, because she looks a lot better on camera than I do. That's for sure.
Oh my God. Well, flattery, I don't know. You know how to stroke my ego, Joseph. So thank you for the compliment. But okay, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm really skeptical about our election system. I really am, especially based on what happened in 2016. And then, you don't know what to believe. I'm concerned that there's going to be some country like Russia or China that hacks in to our system and and try to affect the outcome of the election. Besides our mail situation, I mean, that's only one thing, but that's only one aspect. But really, like with people, the stuff that's going on in the world as far as like the cyber hacking and all the politics, and it just makes me really leery of things. And then, we have this thing called the Electoral College, which I don't have too much faith in anymore. I mean, someone can get the popular vote and still lose. So it's just like, I get the concept of the Electoral College. It was put in place so that smaller states that don't have as much of a voice, like let's take Rhode Island up against California. I get it. But it's just like there should be some sort of committees or some board put in place to police that. Because, I mean, Hillary clearly won last election, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as the numbers are concerned, she won the popular vote. So, but who do we have as president right now? We have Mr. President Trump. So, anyway, this is something I could talk on forever because it's just so much that goes into it. And growing up, I heard this all the time. Never talk about politics and religion unless you're ready to get into a debate. Because I'll say this and I'll toss it over to Mickey. You would be surprised, and I've been surprised, the people that support Trump. People in our LGBTQ community that I have had conversations with, and they think he's doing an absolutely fabulous job. So I'm like scratching my head, like, is there something I'm missing? Like, well, I don't know. I mean, granted, no president is perfect. No president is perfect. And, his business sense, I'm sure, has helped in some situations, as in the last 4 years. Someone pointed out to me that he made, and I didn't know this, but I did look it up, that he made Saudi Arabia start paying our military for protection. Supposedly they hadn't done that before or in a while. I don't know for sure, but based on as rich as this country is, and we were giving them military protection, we still are, against Iran. So supposedly Trump initiated where they have to pay our government for the military protection they get from us, and that supposedly has generated $1 billion. When I looked it up, the article was very confusing, and it didn't really make clear that he generated by him doing that, it made $1 billion for us. But I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many things. And then I was having a conversation with someone else about Obama, about Trump. And then they said, well, Obama was the one that started the whole thing with the war and immigration. And I was thinking, well, I don't know. I need to research that. But even, any president has to be concerned with immigration. You can't just open your borders as a country and let whoever the hell wants to come in. I mean, that's just common sense. But like, did Obama put children in cages? I don't know about that one. So on that note, I'm going to toss it to Mickey because, I don't want to get too political.
Yeah, what I will say is that, in fact, Obama did put children in cages. It's like an unfortunate thing to think about because Obama was very popular and he was seen as kind of this progressive hero. But I think, again, that plays into that plays into sort of the thing that I was talking about before, where we have this idea that just because, oh, we have like this progressive Democratic president, that like all of our ills have been solved. But the nickname deporter in chief was a nickname given to Obama by people who had been deported by him and people whose families had been affected by his immigration policies. Like, Obama wasn't some like knight in shining armor for undocumented individuals. And it's unfortunate to think that, because again, we are taught to think, oh, he was just this paradigm of what a president should be. And it's like, as Raji correctly pointed out, no president is perfect, but Obama was far more flawed than I think a lot of us want to admit, because it just means that our country has been really, really crappy for a lot longer than we really wanted to give ourselves credit for. And it also sort of plays into how George Bush is viewed now, because Trump is just so awful that everyone looks back fondly on George W. Bush. And it's like, George W. Bush ruined education. He started a war in the Middle East that is ongoing to this day. He gave us the Patriot Act, so none of us have any privacy. And people want to rehabilitate his image. And I mean, I'm not surprised that he's running with that. I'm sure his team is loving that, because it makes him look better. It makes his legacy look better. And so going from that into the next election, it's not that I support Trump in any way, shape, or form. And I think that ultimately it will be at least marginally better that there is a Democrat in office. But I don't blame people for not trusting the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is just as sleazy in very different ways. For example, when Bernie Sanders was getting a ton of traction in both 2016 and 2020, the Democratic establishment went out of its way to demonize him, to mobilize voters against him, to vote in favor of the candidates that they wanted, whether it was Hillary, whether it was Buttigieg, whether it was Biden. That is something that the Democratic Party did. And another fact of the matter is if you really want to look at what Democrat representation has done for us, I mean, they flipped the Senate, or not the Senate, the House of Representatives in 2018. And so technically, to one out of the three branches of the executive branch, or not, God, I'm so sorry, I'm so confused. Of one of the three, I'm getting all of my branches mixed up. I know, judicial, executive, and legislative. Okay, but so the three core in terms of lawmaking, the House, the Senate, and then the president, who is in the executive branch. One of those is controlled by the Democrats, the ones who introduce the laws, the ones who introduce the bills and whatnot. And things have gotten, I would say, much worse since then. Even though we have our quote unquote allies controlling one of the major areas of our government, like we have. I mean, I guess I would say, like, yes, I do fall on the left side, and the Democrats are technically, for lack of a better term, on that side. But, like, things haven't gotten any better since 2018. Things have gotten worse. So, again, I don't blame people for not being super trusting of the Democrats, because the Democrats have not done a lot for a lot of people. And for that matter, Joe Biden is most likely a rapist. Joe Biden also introduced the crime bill of 1994 that demonized and ruined so many different lives here in this country that we're still feeling the repercussions of today. And Kamala Harris is a prosecutor from California who sent parents to jail because their kids weren't able to make it to school. That's just like, that's the fact of the matter. Like, these are the people that the Democratic establishment was like, this is who you should vote for. Even though people like Bernie Sanders were wildly popular, even though Joe Biden was really not that popular at all, they pushed him through, and now people are wondering why people are wondering why there's such criticism of the DNC right now, and it's because all of your gestures are very empty. Having you guys in power has not changed anything for us. Like, I can't think of any tangible victories that have been made in terms of like progressive policies since 2018. Things have just gotten worse. So I'm less concerned in terms of the presidential election, and I'm more concerned about local elections and who you're voting for in your county, who you're voting for in your city and state legislator, who you're voting for your district attorneys, what ballots are on your measure, or what ballots are on your, or what measures are on your ballot. As you can see, I have not gotten that much sleep lately, but what measures are on your ballot? These are the things that you should care about, because to be quite frank, that is going to have a greater effect on your day-to-day life than, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, who is in office, like in the White House. So I'm gonna throw it over to Joseph, because we've talked for a while now, and I think it's his turn to add his.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give 2 cents of worth. I completely agree with both of you. I don't know if anyone can hear me. It doesn't seem like I can, but I hope people can. I agree with you about all politicians basically being corrupt. So, Raji, I think if you put your microphone on mute, then it might not give me feedback. There we go. So I think part of what the problem is that none of us have ever been given any good information at all, because everyone has been told what they want to hear. No one's ever been told the truth at all, ever in life. They told us to go to school. They told us that we have to go to college. They told us we have to work 9 to 5. They told us that you can buy a house. First you gotta get a car. Then after you get a car, then you can buy a house. And you're not supposed to have sex until you get married. And then once you get married, then you can have sex. There's a whole bunch of things that we've been told that we're supposed to do as good little soldiers in life. That's what we've been told and taught, what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to, if you're a black person, you're supposed to be with black people. If you're a white person, you're supposed to be with white people. If you're gay, you're supposed to rot in hell. Pretty much, that's the way it's always been told to me. Like, if you're gay, you're gonna, it doesn't matter. You don't matter. Which is a horrible thing to actually say out loud, but that's the way that I was taught, that you're a horrible person and you don't even matter at all. Trans people, the same thing. Bisexual people, the same thing. We've all been taught and told what we're supposed to do our entire life. At this point now, a lot of us are starting to get older. And for people like yourself, Mick, people that are smarter than we were. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm old enough to be your dad. So I look really good, especially with this good lighting and this nice tight shirt and my hair slicked back. But all joking aside, it was a different world back 20 years ago. And unfortunately for you and other people, it's still almost the same world, except that a lot of people that are your age are now able and willing to fight for things. You have the opportunity to fight. We didn't have an opportunity to fight back then. 20 years ago, if we started fighting, I mean, all joking aside, Stonewall, I wouldn't have done it. I know other people did, but I wouldn't have been out there getting beaten down and bloody and fighting with cops and dragged out and put in jail and everything else. I wouldn't have done it. I really wouldn't have. I would have wanted to, but I would have been afraid what would happen if I did it. I mean, that's just the way that I look at it from that perspective. But I mean, I understand what you're saying, that none of the people that are running for office are a good choice. However, I do believe in my heart that the current person who sits behind the Oval desk should not be allowed to sit there. Someone else should be sitting there. I don't care who that person is. I don't care what their color is. I don't care what their race is. I don't care what their sex is. I don't care if they're Democrat, Independent, Republican. I don't care who they are. But the person who is sitting back there right now is the absolute worst person on the face of the earth that I've ever seen in a position of power. So that's just my perspective, Raji.
Okay. So I totally get what Nick is saying. Mick, I'm saying Nick. I'm sorry. I love you, Mickey. So I totally, I totally get what you're saying in regards to politics, because really, like I always said, I could never be a politician because my heart is. I really wear my heart on my sleeve, and I try to really live my life intentionally and conscientious about what I do and how I touch and affect people. And so I think a lot of times when you get into the politics game, there's so much crap involved with it that even if you go in with good intentions, a lot of times after you're in the game for a while, you start to maybe lose that a little, maybe lose that a lot. And so I totally get that. I also agree with Mickey, when you said about local government, because see, the president is just the face that represents, our country, the face of the country. But when things are trying to be passed, like bills are trying to be passed, it has to go through a Congress and a Senate. So that's why we need to be conscientious about who we vote for, our senators, our state representatives, our Congress people. And so, yeah, it really does trickle down, and local government is so important. In regards to Democrat and Republican, the thing that strikes me so much when I am looking at both parties is that when I look at a Democratic convention, I see people like me. Okay, like I see more people like me. There's more diversity there. When in 2016, when I watched the Republican convention, it was like a sea of like white folks with like, I called them little raisins, like sprinkled around. Like it was, and it almost looked like it was staged. Like it wasn't sincere in the sense that they were really there because they were like passionately Republican. Now I could be wrong, and I know that there are people of color that are Republicans and they're passionate about it. But it's just that I think as a transgender woman of color, I connect with the Democratic Party because I see more of myself there. And I also hear from the Democratic Party their concerns about, quote unquote, maybe it's bullshit, but at least they're vocal about my LGBTQ community. All right. When I went up to Tallahassee to meet with lawmakers in January, no Republican met with us. We were the first transgender women of color to go and sit down at the state capitol in Tallahassee and meet with lawmakers. None of them, no Republicans agreed to meet. All right, they were all Democrats. So you can say what you want. And when I say you, I'm just talking about people in general. Maybe the Democrats are bullshit. Maybe 50% of what they say, 60, 70% is bullshit. But I still feel I have a better chance with them than I do the Republicans. Okay, because of just based on what I've seen in the actions. I mean, under Obama, there were things that happened for the LGBTQ community. Transgender people saw strides. Our community, there were, and then what does Trump do? He takes away our rights as far as health care in this country. Now, I did read recently that a judge overruled that, I think, and it's kind of in limbo now. But what I'm saying is, it's the actions that I'm looking at. I'm looking at Obama was the first president to appoint a transgender person in a position at the White House. Now, you can call that whatever you want, but listen, actions speak louder than words to me. And, for him to have the balls to do that, I thought was just wonderful. Now, no, he wasn't perfect. He was not perfect. But I'm just saying, I think I have a better chance with the Democrats than I do Republicans. Now, that's a blanket statement. There's some Democrats, I'm sure, that don't like my community and don't have any concern with transgender women or people of color. But for the most part, I'm speaking in general. And I'll close with this. I had posted something on my social media about Kamala Harris. And I said, wow, wouldn't it be pretty progressive, like if, America voted the first woman of color to be vice president? So, I got like a lot of support, but then there were people saying, oh, she's not qualified. She doesn't have the credentials. And I was like, credentials? Don't talk to me about credentials. Okay. This woman has her law degree. She's a lawyer. She was elected state attorney of California in 2010 and reelected in 2014. She's been a senator since 2017. Okay. Meanwhile, our president had no political experience. Okay. He is a rich white man who had a reality show. All right, so don't talk to me about credentials. I cannot stand it when there's this double standard here. Like, even with Michelle Obama, the first lady, the things people said about her. She's a lawyer. Melania, what are her credentials? Does she have law degree behind her name? Now, don't get me wrong. I like Melania. I like her. But I'm saying if you're holding something to a certain standard, don't be selective when it comes to like, oh, if someone's a woman or someone's black or come on, it needs to be across the board. And that's what like pisses me off with that. Now, I'm sure there's things about Kamala that I will find out that I won't like. But I just felt like, if you're talking about credentials, come on, you need to come a lot stronger than that, honey. Because since Trump became president, I think just about anyone can become president if they have enough money, okay? The credentials and the political experience has gone out the window after Trump has been voted president. So anyway, on that note, I'll send it over to Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing that's important to note is that with what you said, him winning the presidency really does change the whole idea of what credentials someone needs to have to be a president. And I guess on a fundamental level, you have to think, all right, this is the land of the free, home of the brave. If you really want to buy into all of that, and you think that this is a government governed by the people for the people, there is the idea that anyone can be president. So like someone like a businessman like Donald Trump can be president. A person who works in music PR like myself can be president. Someone who happens to be a sex worker who lives in rural Missouri can be president. Raji could be president. Like Joseph could be president. Anyone on this call in theory could be president. And really that I don't think in and of itself is a problem. Like what ultimately makes someone more qualified to be a leader than others? And on a fundamental level, like there isn't really anything. Like there's no such thing as divine right. There's no like pedigree amongst people that like makes anyone better than anybody else. I mean, there's obviously like when you start getting into things like, you know, technically like what your experience is or like what it is that you happen to be familiar with. Like if you work in public policy, if you're a civic engineer, if you have done activism work, like certainly you're probably more qualified to be a leader. But I don't know. I just think that this is all, in a lot of ways, it's just becoming a very redundant and kind of like, quite frankly, like useless conversation, because it's like, I quite frankly, like, I don't like paying attention to the president because the president is an idiot and he doesn't do anything. I don't love paying attention to Congress either because, like, not that I don't care about what they're doing, because it's like I want to make sure when my rights are being taken away. I like to know when they're doing shit that is going to take advantage of marginalized folks. But ultimately, like debating over like these things about like whether or not someone is qualified for office, or just like, I don't know, or even caring about the nuance of politics is annoying, because in the end, this is bigger than politics. These are things the people who are in power and who we're voting for are going to determine whether or not people are sent back to shitty situations that they're fleeing in their countries. This is going to determine whether or not gay people and trans people have rights and protections under the law. This is going to determine whether or not women or really just or trans men or non-binary folk have agency over their bodies. Like this, it's more than politics, and to talk about it just as politics just makes it detaches it from the real issue in and of itself, that there are people's lives on the line, and we're sitting here talking about, oh, like, well, at least they're a Democrat, so like they're at least like somewhat on my side. It's like I don't want to just be on just like a side that I kind of identify with. Like I want someone who is going to take charge and who is like, I want to make sure that abortion rights or abortion access is made available to everyone. I want to make sure that gay, queer, and trans people have protections under the law. I want to make sure that the police are defunded because they don't do anything. Like this whole question and discussion about like, oh, like we have to vote Democrat or we have to vote Republican. It's like those are just in the end words that describe people who are running for different points of office. And like, I don't know. I get really frustrated having these conversations because they're not changing anything. People are still dying. They're living in poverty. They're not being helped to like raise their families. They're like, people's children are not getting access to decent education. Families are being separated, and we're sitting here debating over whether or not like we should vote Democrat or Republican. It's bigger than that. So
well, I agree with you completely, Mick, first of all. And I don't want to discount what Raji said at all, or what you just said. Raji, if you can mute your mic, then I won't be double the voice.
Am I? Is it mute?
Yeah. Yours,
Yeah.
now it is.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much, Raji. But the fact is, no, it's still not. There we go. Now we're good. So, but, and we're trying to figure this out because I'm not comfortable to have anybody around me at all on the face of the earth besides people that I'm related to, except for Raji, to be honest with you. So she's sitting 15 feet away from me on the other side of the office. And oddly enough, her video looks a lot better than mine does. So I'm a little kind of peeved that she looks so pretty and I look so not pretty, but whatever. To get back onto the point of a serious topic, I don't like to talk about politics either as well. I don't care if someone's Republican or Democrat or if they're independent or whatever their deal is, to be honest with you. But I think there's a fundamental issue, which is what you just talked about, Mick. And also Raji. We all believe the same thing. You do, and all of us on this conversation believe the same thing. You do good things. You're helpful to people. You don't care about money more than making the money more than helping people. But unfortunately, for us, we're stuck in an environment where the people who are currently in charge care more about money than they do about people. And actually, I've had that on my website the entire time. People are more important than money. That's the most people before profits. People are much more important than profits. And to be honest with you, I welcome the day that all of those people out there who are trying to bank on making money, and they lose it all. Not talking about the people that I care about. Some of those people are actually helping produce the show. But the thing is, like, the people who are ridiculously rich trying to make money off of people's suffering, whether it is a pharmaceutical company or people making masks that are, let's say, decorative because it has to have a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci or a Cartier logo on it, and it's just a mask, but it's got the Gucci logo, it's got the Cartier logo, it's got the whatever logo on it. The idea is that it shouldn't matter to make money off of that. Those companies should be doing it for free. Same thing with everyone's complaining that no one has internet. There have been over 400 within the last 2 months or 3 months, 400 satellites that have gone up, encompassing the entire world. And it's been highly publicized. Some of those are from Elon Musk or whoever, Cologne or whatever the thing is. I don't know how to say it politely, so I'm not going to. But the fact is that there's so many satellites swooping around us right now that are beaming down on top of the Earth 5G coverage. No one can tell me right now that someone cannot get good internet at home, including me, including Raji, including you, and including every other person out there right now, wherever they live. It's circling the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no excuse for people who can afford to pay for it, pay for it. People who cannot afford to pay for it, it should be free. All this technology was actually derived from Tesla. And unfortunately, that poor man had 20 cases that disappeared. And I actually put out a little post earlier about it. 20 cases disappeared. He died mysteriously in a hotel room. I'm not going to say the name of the person who supposedly, possibly took the 20 cases away because I don't want to say the name because I hate saying the name out loud, but it's someone who's was a very close relation to the current orange monster that's in control of the United States. So everyone can pull that up on their own. Tesla had over 80 inventions, and 20 of them disappeared. Because someone swooped in, found a dead body, took 20 of the cases away, and it's something that's very well documented. And I think it's pretty ironic that there's so many things that what Tesla did for a good reason are now being taken advantage of, from my perspective. And there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of him that don't understand possibly how that money came into existence or how those inventions get transferred into what our current environment is. It just happens to be the same family that is in control right now that just happened to be there to pick up those 20 cases way back when he died. So I'm not going to talk about stock stuff or anything like that. I don't want to offend Marty or anyone else out there listening, but so it's a little bit creepy. I posted about it earlier before It's just a little bit frustrating for me because I think the most important thing is people before profits. And you, Mick, and also Raji, we're all in the same boat with knowing that people are more important than money. And it's just a frustrating situation. But I do want to talk about the actual election process because there's a lot of things that are under scrutiny right now, and there's a lot of people that are concerned. So apparently, the election ballot process is under question. My question for you, Mick, as well as Raji, is how are you going to vote? Are you going to vote remotely and send in your ballot, or are you going to actually go to a place and cast a ballot? And if you do remote vote with like a mail-in ballot, do you think that your vote is actually going to count, or do you think it might just be words in the wind, so to speak? So I'm going to take the dogs away from Raji because they're trying to attack her right now, and I apologize for that. But those are my little dogs. They're the same size as a human being. But Raji, over to you. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Dogs are the story of my. Wait, I don't know.
Didn't hear Raji.
Raji, I think you're still muted.
Yes, I can't hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you? Okay. All right. So, did anyone hear anything I said or no?
No.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll just kind of give it, I can do a summary real quick. No, I was talking in regards to the dogs. That's been the story of my life, me attracting dogs, but that's a whole nother show and a long story. In regards to politics, I've never taken voting for granted. From 18 years old, I've made it my business to vote because I do realize that people fought for that right, for me to be able to have the right to go and vote. So I really try to exercise my right to vote. In regards to, Mick, you had mentioned the different groups of people that, depending on who's elected into power, lives will be affected. Well, to make myself clear, I'm one of those people. I'm a transgender woman of color, and there's decisions that are being made in regard to my livelihood. I mean, just recently, like we're talking 2 months, okay? I now am protected in the workplace. Okay, so my whole life from the age of 18 to, and we're not going to say how old I am, but let's just say I've been around the block a number of times. I'm proud to be a cougar. But no, for all of my employment life, my life working in the workforce, I've had to be concerned about being able to have a job and keep a job just because of who I am. So I've lived this. I'm living this. And so I believe that the conversation is so important to have. That yes, I'm sitting up here and I'm talking about politics. I think it's an important thing to discuss because I happen to be one of those people that I could, depending on who's voted in, my well being could be at stake. And so you know, Democrat, Republican, who knows? I mean, it's such a damn game when it's all said and done. But right now, what choices do we have? What are the choices that we have? We have the Democratic choice, Biden and Kamala, or we have the Republican choice. And which one are you going to choose? Hey, if it was up to me, I would have liked to have another choice, but we don't. We don't. So anyway, on that note, I'll send it over to Mickey.
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, when I end up voting, because I will vote, because I'm not just voting on the presidential election, I'm voting for measures that are going to be on the ballot out here in California. There's going to be a measure on rent control that people should really care about because rent control is important and it's going to keep a lot of people from being thrown out on the street, especially during this pandemic. There are going to be votes as well that concern the rights of imprisoned people within the state of California that are very important with regards to restoring their voting rights and also what is classified as a felony. There is currently a measure on the ballot that will make a lot more things a felony, like petty theft, which petty theft should not be a felony. And if anything, what the current environment has taught us, we should not be trying to expand the carceral system. We should be trying to find ways to mitigate it because, as we've seen, punitive measures and the carceral system do not actually make people safer. They don't make people behave better. They are just ways for people to basically legalize slavery. So these are measures that you should care about. And since I am obviously going to be like voting on these measures, I will have a presidential ballot in front of me, and I'm going to do what I can to at least try to mitigate some of the harm in this country. And I will vote for the Democratic ticket, but I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that that is going to be a be-all, end-all solution, or that it even is a solution. Because for all we know, we'll get Biden in office, and then nothing happens because Republicans don't let him get anything done, which again is just a huge fault of our system. But that kind of just, that is what it is. And again, this is just, we're talking about a lot of things with regards to an election that is a few months away when the problems are very present and very right now. People are getting evicted, people are getting sick. School is supposed to start up for a lot of people again, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. And we're worried about whose names we're gonna write down in like 3 months. I just think that it's just like, it's ridiculous. I don't know. It's just a lot of distractions from what actually matters and what should be getting done right now. So I don't know. I guess I just don't really have that much more to say on it because I just think that not even that I know that there are more important things to talk about right now, but I'm going to throw it over to Joseph.
All right, thank you so much, Mick, and thank you so much, Raji, as well. And I agree with you. There are a lot more things to talk about that are more important than the election, but the election is part of what's going to be happening. But I agree with you. I know I'm going to share well, first of all, I have 2 personal stories to share, which might help some of our watchers or listeners or people who might see the show later. By the way, if you ever want to communicate with Mick, his email address is mick@mysouthernexposure.site. That's mick@mysouthernexposure.site. If you ever want to talk to that beautiful, buxom girl down there with the effervescent values It's called Raji at mysouthernexposure.site, and me, Joseph, at mysouthernexposure.site. So, but I just wanted to remind people, because we are in the second hour of the show, and this topic kind of got away on me. It was just a tease, and then it turned into a whole discussion, which I didn't plan for, which is good because it's a live show. You never know what's going to happen, but it does bring up several things that are important, because I think that the electoral process is obviously important, but the current situation that I'm concerned with is education, because there's a lot of people going back to school at college universities, as well as high schools and preschools and grade schools. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of brand new cases of COVID that came out in a very short period of time. And I talked about this a long time ago. I've been talking about it, warning people it's not good to go to school, you should stay home, everything else, you need to do this, you need to do that. No one seems to want to listen to what I'm talking about. But the fact of the matter is, can I get a shot? Can I give you some money? Can you go buy some? I'm talking to my bartender. I'm joking with you. But all joking aside, the fact that I'm concerned with is education, because some people out there that are involved in the education department are only concerned with people going back to school. And they're making people, believe it or not, they're making people sign waivers that they cannot sue the high school, the grade school, the college, or university, whatnot. So if you go to school, if you're a kid, you can't make your own decision because your mom and dad do that for you, or your grandfather, grandmother, uncle, aunt, whatever. So they have to sign a piece of paper that says, I, the person, am going to send the kid to school, and I can't sue you. If my kid gets sick and dies, I'm okay with it. Pretty much, that's what it is. That's pretty much what it is. So I'm not comfortable with that situation. I don't think that's appropriate. There's a lot of people out there, and I hear Carlita's voice in the background, I think. There's a lot of people out there that agree with me with this part. And I know a lot of different levels of the education perspective, from principals to college, university teachers, to high school teachers, to grade school teachers, to pre-K teachers. I know a lot of these people across the board, and everyone is confused. But I'm just gonna say it, and I don't care who I get pissed off or who I upset. I really don't care. If I had a child, I would definitely not let my child go to school if I have to sign a waiver that says I can't, any waiver at all. That's it. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable that the school has to force people to go to school, which there was a new directive that was pushed through from the Orange Monster that now makes school teachers essential employees. It was just passed through last week. So number one, what that does is it sets a precedent that school teachers are considered essential employees. So you have to think about two things. Number one, what it does is that it makes them essential employees. But number two, it also forces them to go to school and forces them to go to work, whether they want to go to work or not. So then they have a choice. Either I go to work or I get fired, or I get sick and die because I'm an essential employee. Because that's the national directive. I am an essential employee and I have to go to work. I want to hear what Raji has to say and you have to say, Mick, because I'm not comfortable with that situation with education because I thought we're supposed to keep our kids safe. And looking at the numbers that are going up right now, there's a lot of kids that are getting sick. People are going to school. Classes are getting shut down. It never should have been brought up in the first place. Raji, I'm going to shut up because I'm starting to get warm right now. You're going to have to turn that fan towards me.
So, can you hear me? I think y'all can hear me. Yeah, I actually, I agree with you, Joseph. I mean, if I had children, I don't think I doubt very much I would send them to school, especially if I was being asked to sign a waiver that if anything happens, they're not responsible. I mean, what are you saying to me? You know, that alone, like you even asking me to sign a waiver. So, yeah, I totally agree. I have a niece and a nephew. They will not be returning to the classroom this school year. They'll be doing their classes online. I think a lot of, I also have some cousins, their children are also going to be homeschooled. So I think a lot of places around the country are going with the homeschool thing, like being having lessons on the internet, and that's probably the way to go at this point. I mean, there are some areas in the country where the infection rate is so very low. Maybe they could do some sort of hybrid thing, but I know how kids are. And, you know, if you really expect kids to follow like social distancing policies or guidelines, I mean, hell, adults can't even do it. I mean, look at the colleges that are already having problems and having to shut down. So yeah, totally. I think at this point, until there's a vaccine, we probably need to just stick with that. And I really do get that this is an adjustment for parents because, you know, parents have to go out and work. And, you know, then you're talking about the extra food bill that's happening because the kids are home all day now. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into this. I get it. But I mean, when it's all said and done, I think in the end, the children's safety is the most important thing. So on that note, I'll toss it to Mickey.
Raji makes a great point with this fact that people assume that people assume that kindergartners, people assume that students who routinely mix together their lunch foods and dare each other to eat it off of the same tray that 5 other people have eaten off of are going to follow social distancing guidelines, that they're not going to touch each other, that they're going to understand the implications of a very real and very life-threatening pandemic. What I say needs to happen is, unless people can come to a consensus on there being remote learning, and unless people can come to a consensus and realize that it is not safe for not just students but teachers to go back to school. Like my sister's a teacher, and like I don't want her going back to school right now. Like I want her to be safe. My other sister went back to work as a essential worker, as a waitress and hostess, and caught COVID like 2 or 3 weeks after she went back. And they're doing everything in their power to like make sure that everything is safe, and she still caught it. So it's like, no, people should not be going back to school right now. Teachers, like, we should be organizing with teachers. Teachers should be going on strike if their school system is trying to send them back, because that is not just unsafe for their students, it is unsafe for them. And as Raji pointed out, yeah, I mean, I understand that it's hard for parents, but like, think about this. If you're not going back to your office because it is not safe for you to go back to work yet, why do you want to send your kid back to school? Why? That is a mental disconnect that does not make any sense to me. You're already stuck at home. Your kid is going to have to be stuck at home with you. And I get that that's hard. I'm not saying that parents don't have it hard right now, but like, you just, you really just have to think about the fact that it is not safe for people to go back, and that the problem here isn't that like people are like that the government is trying to like make your life harder, like in any ways. It's more so just that why hasn't the government done anything to make your life easier? Like they could provide parents money for the additional costs that go into feeding everyone, or like the electrical bill being higher, just general cost of living is going to be higher because everyone is at home. There needs to be like a universal basic income while people aren't able to work and aren't able to have their kids in school. And like, it's just everything is being done wrong, and all of the wrong questions are being asked. Everyone's asking like why can't people go back to school, and like why can't, like what are parents going to do? And no one's asking anything like what can the government do to make this easier for everyone? What can the government do to do its job and protect us and protect our kids and make sure that our livelihoods are okay and make sure that the economy doesn't suffer? Like those are the questions that we should be asking, and not when is it going to be safe to send our kids back to school, because we are not at that point yet. Even if there was a vaccine, the part of the problem is that a bunch of dumb fucks in this. No, I shouldn't even say that, because quite frankly, people who are less intelligent don't know any better. It is literally foolish and ignorant people who are willfully ignorant and choose not to be better people, which is worse than being stupid, because people can't help being stupid, but you can help being an ignorant fuck. Are like, I don't want to get that vaccine. And it's like, I don't really know what to tell you. The one thing that I will say is that obviously that like I want to make sure that vaccines are safe for people, in the sense that like this vaccine is probably going to come a lot faster than most other vaccines that we've ever had, because there is a huge rush to get it through. And I can understand people's maybe fear about getting a new type of medication that's only been on the market for a little bit. But we're in a pandemic. Like, we should be jumping for solutions, and we should be trying to do this as fast as we can. And it is another example of people just being very ignorant and not doing what they need to do to make sure that everyone else is safe. They're more concerned just about themselves, and that's a problem. It's a problem. I'm going to throw it over to Joseph now, because I have said my piece.
Okay, first of all, honey, I agree with you completely. But by the same token, I disagree with you on some of the topics you brought up. And Raji, I agree with most of what you said as well. And this is part of my problem that I have with this, is that I think that we're in a moment in life, and you're really young to be forced into it, Mick. I apologize to you as an old person. It's not your fault that you're stuck and brought into this mess that was put upon you. And I feel horrible for you. And then I feel horrible for people who were just born. And I know several people who were just recently born, babies, from other people. A lot of what we've ever been taught in our life is programmed. You go to school, you get a degree, you meet someone, you get married, you get a house, you get a car, all this kind of stuff, which those are things. Those are material things. At the end of the day, you can't take any of that with you. So I think that's where I have a disconnect in my head. I think that people are more important than money. And unfortunately, for right now, we're stuck with people who are in positions of power that own companies that we have all become dependent upon to help us make our lives easier. We all have been. Most of us have been. We've been force fed. Go to the grocery store, do this, do that, whatever. So we've all been kind of force fed that we have to go to this, we have to do this, we have to do that. And at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. The most important thing is people and their health. That's the most important. Like the most important thing to me. If my partner tells me he doesn't feel good, you know what I do? I'm done for the day. If his mom doesn't feel good, I'm done for the day. If I don't feel good, I'm done for the day. I can make money another day. Luckily. And most people can do the same thing. But a lot of people are stuck going to a 9-to-5 job because people have told everyone, you go 9 to 5, 5 days a week, from this time to that time, 40 hours a week equates into this dollar amount. And then you use that dollar amount to buy you this and buy you that. And there's an equation so that you can pay your rent. And then you can pay this and this. And then there's this and that and everything else. It's time for shit to change. It's not about a mathematical equation at this point. It's about people more than profits. And to be honest with you, the only good side, the only good thing that I can think about besides this show, I never would have even thought about having a show unless I was stuck at home, which I feel so blessed by Raji and by you, Mick, as well as Laura and Marty and Carlita and everyone else who's been on board. We are very lucky and fortunate, but there's a lot of other people out there just like me and you. And we are all trying to figure out how to make this stuff work. And there's a lot of people telling us that they know the answers to the problem, and they have no fucking clue. Seriously, they have no clue. They don't know. No one knows the answer. No one knows for certain you can do this and not get COVID. Everyone that you ask, no matter who you ask, no matter how, I know people with a lot of money, I know people who are poor, and no one knows the answer. No one knows the answer. Doesn't make no difference. No one knows what's going on, but I can tell you this. This is a reality check. Have you ever in your lifetime, Mick or Raji, seen a virus kill someone in less than 7 days? Someone who's healthy, in less than 7 days, they die. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. And they're trying to make it seem like it's just the flu. It's just an extreme version of the flu. I've never seen people die so quickly who were healthy before. They might have had quote unquote underlying issues because it sounds better, so that it makes it sound better for you to be able to accept it so that you're programmed that way. Seriously. But really, has there ever been a virus in your lifetime, Raji, that kills someone in less than a week?
Wow. Am I on? All right, I think I'm good. I'm getting with it, y'all. I'm getting with it. I'm learning the unmute mute button. Well, okay. I've seen it. I've heard about it. I mean, there is the Ebola thing that happened a few years ago, which, oh, by the way, Obama, I thought handled that pretty good because, we only had, I think, one case. But yeah, that was like widespread in Africa. It was horrible. And then, I don't know if you all remember Legionnaire's disease. So I've seen and heard of like viruses and sicknesses that have attacked people in a short amount of time and they've died. I think this one, though, is the largest in my lifetime, has been the largest as far as like worldwide, like on a worldwide type of thing, scale, a worldwide type of scale. I mean, prior to this one, it was 100 years ago, or a little over 100, in 1918 with the Spanish flu. but that wasn't in my lifetime. So yeah, I've seen it, but not, I don't think to the extent that this one has been. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I think what it's done for us as a human race is it's made everyone stop and slow down a little bit and really think about life. I know it's made me do that and think about the things that we put or place importance on, like start to evaluate and reevaluate things, because I mean, this has certainly shown me that, the routine that one can get used to and the things that we're familiar with can indeed change. And, I know this is a commonly used thing now with a lot of people, or phrase. We're in a new world. It's a different world. And it truly is. I mean, it might sound cliche, because so many people are saying it, but it really is. I mean, kids not going to a brick and mortar school. I mean, on such a widespread level, and people working more from home now, and I mean, just so many things have changed. Companies that would not allow work from home are now allowing it, and like indefinitely. So it really is, I think, opportunity in the sense that it gives us as human beings a chance to really evaluate our life journey. And again, what we call important and what we don't. And also learning to be able to adapt, because isn't really life, when you look at like life, isn't that really what it's been, like ever changing, even though we human beings love stability and like a routine and that sort of thing for the most part. From the minute we're born to the day we die, to the moment we die, it's ever changing, and evolving. Life is evolving. So this has certainly made me look at my life and just, like, even I'll say this and I'll throw it over to Mickey. Wait.
Laura.
Oh, Laura. Hey, Laura. Hi, Lala. Oh, I'm looking forward to you, honey, because I'm hungry. But anyway, I'll just say this and I'll throw it over to Lala. That even like things like funerals and graduations and weddings and events that you wouldn't even have thought, like we wouldn't think twice about those things. Now we have to think about it. Like, God, I think about the people that have passed away during this time, like them not getting proper funerals and people being able to gather together. And, like, because that's traditionally, as human beings, we've done that over the centuries, like given our dead, like honor our dead and give them a proper funeral. And so, stuff like that really makes you think, wow, like this world is nothing is set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. It really has been a reality check, I think, for a lot of us. So on that note, Lala, what do you have for me today? What am I going to eat virtually?
Well, we have yummy, yummy stuff, Raji. And I'm hoping you can hear me. Can you hear me? Good. We have yummy stuff today. And I do want to say something about what you just said about funerals. My father, Mick's grandfather, passed away during this pandemic. And it made it even worse because you could not have a proper funeral. You couldn't get together with your friends. You couldn't hug people. We did do a little church service, but we're waiting till we can gather and have a nice Irish wake because that's what he wanted. So that's what we're going to do. But on to essential pleasures. And what we're going to talk about today is your garden produce. I think this week I'm going to make a little video of my garden, and so that I can show it to you next week, possibly. But right now, corn, peppers, and tomatoes are totally in season. And the Italians know a thing or two. Now, these are just some lovely cherry tomatoes. I've got these beautiful yellow tomatoes and, of course, the red cherry tomatoes. Pick these today from my garden. I have more than I can possibly use. I have to make sauce and freeze them. But what I wanted to talk about today was using your tomatoes, because even if you don't grow them, they're inexpensive now and they are delicious and they're so good for you. And there's so many things you can do. So I'm going to run through 4 really quick, easy recipes. We're going to put them on the My Southern Exposure site. And I'm Laura at mysoutherexposure.site. You look for those and some photos of these recipes. But we're going to start out with a caprese salad. And it's the easiest thing. It looks like the Italian flag because I'm sure the Italians invented this. Italian flag is red, white, and green. And this salad, you take some beautiful tomatoes and slice them. You add a little bit, here's your white layer, a little bit of mozzarella cheese. Layer those up nicely on a nice white plate. Plate them up. Then you just drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, a little bit of a nice balsamic vinegar if you have it. I got this as a gift yesterday, and it's the Neapolitan herb, and this is going to be so good on my caprese. Sprinkle it with a little bit of that. I mean, that's 3 ingredients plus salt and pepper and things that you should have, olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And then you can go out to your garden, or you can get them at the store, and I've got fresh basil and fresh oregano, so I can do both. You just pop off one of these leaves, take your scissors, snip, snip, snip of that over the top, and you've got the red, white, and green. It's delicious, and that's your caprese salad. Now, if you want to make a pizza, I made a couple, and I've got a picture for the website. I've made my dough recipe, and I'm going to put it on. It makes 4 that you can make pizzas that will be about this size. So it's a round cookie sheet. I had a stone, my stone broke, but you can still use this. You don't have to grease it or anything. So you make the dough, and that's just flour, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, a little bit of warm water, and some of this dry yeast that you can pick up at the store. You can get it at Aldi. You know, I love myself some Aldi. So you get that, you make up this dough, you knead it a little bit. You don't have to go crazy. You put it in the refrigerator. A couple hours later or the next morning, I break it up into 4 pieces and grease them up with a little olive oil and put them into a little Ziploc baggie, close it up, throw them in the freezer, throw them in the fridge. You can use them over the next couple of days, and you can make pizza. And you just roll it out, you put it onto your pan, then you take all the same stuff you use for your caprese salad and you put it on top. You could use tomato sauce that you made or bought. You could just put your sliced tomatoes on there. I love this jarred minced garlic because drizzle a little olive oil on your dough, put a little bit of this garlic on top, put on the tomatoes, put on your fresh basil, sprinkle it up with a little Parmesan cheese, or if you have some provolone cheese, you're going to be full-blown Italian. And you have got a gorgeous, lovely pizza. And if you cook your tomatoes down a little bit, make your own rough tomato sauce, you can use that also. So our next recipe is going to be called baked tomatoes. And this is another one, super easy. You should have all these ingredients with you. I take my bigger sized, these are still kind of small, but they're called garden size. And this is the one, a variety I told you about last time that you can grow in a pot. This plant is about 9 feet tall now, indeterminate tomato plants. I got a zillion of them. I wish I was with you guys and could give you tomatoes. Anyway, you simply slice the tomatoes in half and you put them into a casserole dish. Just put them down. A little olive oil in there, not a bad idea. Maybe sprinkle it with garlic if you want. Of course, you got to put your salt and pepper. Then I just take some Parmesan cheese, which I mixed with some breadcrumbs, but I've done it without breadcrumbs. You don't have to. I take a little teeny piece of provolone, put that all on top, sprinkle it with this Parmesan cheese, and just bake it at 350 for about a half hour. I thought I made too many of them. My husband ate the whole dang pan. They're so good that you can have them the next morning. You can use them for breakfast with a scrambled egg. So yummy. So easy. Baked tomatoes. Use them as a side dish. It's wonderful. And this last recipe, I really want you to try it. Recipe is going to be on mysoutherexposure.site. It's called tomato jam. And this is a recipe that's adapted from Nordstrom. Everybody loves Nordstrom, right? And you're going to layer this in a little canning jar. That's what I use. And the layers, again, it's the Italian flag. They know a thing or two about tomatoes. Ricotta cheese. You can put it in your blender if you want it real smooth, but you don't have to. Yeah. put in a layer of ricotta cheese into your jar. Then your next layer is going to be pesto. I do not make my own pesto. You can buy little jars of it at Aldi or wherever you shop. I'm sure. I get the green pesto. You put in, you got the white ricotta, then you got a layer of the pesto, and then you take your beautiful little cherry tomatoes. You just put some oil in the pan, push it down a little bit, let them till they start to pop and bubble just a little bit. And you might want to put a little salt, a little garlic, maybe even a little bit of brown sugar or something like that, which you can do. And then when that's cooked up, you put that on top. And you eat this with, you get a French baguette, you slice it up, put a little olive oil on it, put it in the oven for 10 minutes. It gets crunchy. And people go, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. You take it to a party or you serve it to your friends and everybody goes, oh, and it's so easy and so delicious. So I want to encourage you to try all 4 of these recipes today: caprese, pizza, tomato jam, and baked tomatoes. If you have the ingredients for one of these, you can make all of them and you're going to love them. So love everybody. Cheers. See you soon. Do I have to dance now? Dance my way out?
Yes. Oh my God, Lala, thank you so much.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
all of them sound absolutely delicious. And
Oh,
you
I
got
wish
my
I could
mouth
feed you.
watering.
Wish I could feed you. I got them right here. So good.
Mm. I'm hungry now.
They're beautiful. Yeah. All right. Joe, you good? You want me to keep talking? You know I
No,
can.
no, I, young lady, I know you can. I had to unmute myself.
Okay.
Apparently, hopefully, people can now hear me. First of all, thank you so much, La, for your recipe and are making me hungry. But it does make me want to tout, is that the correct word, about my pickles, because I make my own pickle brine. So it was a very simple recipe. Salt, pepper, garlic, onion. Well, it's actually not simple, but basically white vinegar, sugar, and actually bottled water as well. So it's white vinegar, sugar, bottled water, salt, pepper, and then I added the garlic and the onions and the dill, and then I also added some fancy little peppers to get it to look like this. I know it looks horrible, but it looks like there's something horrible in there, like a creature, but she already ate 2 of the other pickles. There's no more of those left. So now she's moving on to the dill version. So these were the spicy ones. This is the spicy version. Now she's moving on to the dill version of pickles. But it's basically, you're going to hear from her shortly about how good my pickle is. It sounds inappropriate to say how good my pickle is, but Laura, seriously, you can unmute yourself.
Unmute for that, talking about your pickle.
I know. Isn't that freaking hysterical how good my pickle is? And I'm sure Marty is, I'm sure Marty is cracking up over there sitting, and I'm waiting to see when Carlita pops into the call. She's probably ready to piss her pants, all joking aside. It sounds inappropriate to say that as well. Your son is back there in the wings. He's like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with my parents? All joking aside, making the pickles is good if you do it from home. Like, we grow our own dill, we grow our own, and actually I put ginger and also turmeric in there as well as the salt and pepper. We can't grow our own peppercorn, but
I think you need to also tell everybody that the pickle is really a cucumber and not really your pickle.
Oh yes, I thought everyone knew that. It's basically just a cucumber.
Okay.
So all you do is you go to the grocery store. I thought that everyone knew this. All you do is go to the grocery store. They're like 79 cents each, and you buy some pickles, and they're about like that size, like ish. Raji, is that too small for you? Should I make it a little bit larger? Should it be more like that for Raji to like the pickle?
It's not the size of the ocean, it's the motion of the waves.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely hysterical. I mean, that's absolutely hysterical, but all joke aside, you just go to your grocery store and you buy some cucumbers. It's a very simple thing to do. And actually, what I do is when I buy the cucumbers at the grocery store, when I slice the cucumbers open, what I try to do is skim off some of the actual seeds. And then I take those seeds and put them in a paper towel, and then I dry them out, and then I try to plant them. 9 chances out of 10, probably 1 out of every 20 is actually going to take. But then also we buy seeds of cucumber seeds. But right now it's very difficult to grow things properly and healthily. So it sounds strange to say healthily, but it's appropriate. So between it being really hot or overly moist, it's hard to be able to grow things in a pot or planter or anything right now. So you just have to be patient and understand that the more that you plant and the more that you do with the seeds, the better that it will get. And this is kind of a really strange conversation to have because it's an hour and 47 minutes later and we haven't even talked about the second topic. So I think pretty much we're waiting for a couple of the people to hop on the call to talk about what they want to. Laura.
I'm here.
If you want to continue talking about something, you're more than welcome to give Raji a moment, and also Nick out in Los Angeles.
Well, you know what? I made another thing with some peppers that I'm growing in my garden. Now I've got green bell peppers, but I also planted some of the Hungarian sweet peppers. I do not grow cucumbers like Jim,
God.
But he said, "Oh, that mixture looks weird." Yeah, sometimes it does look weird, but you can pickle your cherry tomatoes also. You need to take a skewer and poke the cherry tomatoes so that the pickling juice can get in there, but they're delicious also. Or you can put in carrots. It's like that Italian jarred vegetable mix that you can get. It's a great side dish. But I took these beautiful, long, yellow and red peppers. Got a little spicy, Joseph, huh? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I took these peppers and I sliced them longwise, scooped out the seeds, and then I threw them in some simmering water for about 5 minutes. I don't think I had to do that because these were fresh from the garden and they were nice and tender, but I wanted to make sure. I took them out, drained them on a paper towel, put them into a casserole dish, and proceeded to stuff them with a mixture of Italian sausage, and I cheated again with breakfast sausage patties from Aldi. They really do need to sponsor me. And they're already cooked and they're tasty, but I crumbled them up. I added an egg. I added some grated up. I used the Mexican mixture of cheese. So it's got queso and cheddar and a few other types of cheese. I threw in a few herbs and spices. Like I said, 1 egg to kind of mix it all together. Then I stuffed it into these peppers, drizzled a little olive oil, threw them in the oven for 25 minutes. And my sister, who is a real foodie, and her husband, who really likes to eat, came over last night and she goes, "These are better than the ones I make." And she learned from her Italian girlfriend. So I guess the point is you can take a recipe and make it your own. I used what I had. I already had this sausage in the freezer. I didn't go out and buy it specially, but I knew it would taste good. Next time I make it, I'm just going to chop up some salami, use the same thing: cheese, egg, maybe a little bit of breadcrumbs and some herbs. And I know they're going to be delicious. And you can put tomato sauce over them if you wanted to. I did not do that last night. So don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. If it's something you like and something you would eat, it's probably going to turn out to be really delicious and maybe even better than the original recipe that you were trying to make. So I encourage you to cook or make pickles. So.
Mick, you've been sitting back there in the background in the gala, was just waiting around to say something. You're on like the fourth page of people in the conference call. So what do you have to say about what was law suggested to make?
I can say, as someone who grew up on her cooking and still thinks about it to this day, and who also makes recipes of hers for my friends out here in Los Angeles who also very, very much enjoy them, is to listen to what she says about food. She's always cared very much about it. She has gotten a lot of the things that she has learned about food and taught me about food are things that I very much value. Her grandmother told her that the biggest sin in this world is to waste food when other people don't have it. That is something that I very much live by. And I also think that it is very much something that anyone can enjoy, and you should enjoy making food, even if you just like basic ramen. There are ways to make basic ramen fantastic. In fact, she was one of the people who kind of showed me, like, even if it's just cutting up a hot dog into it, like, you can make food your own. And as she was saying, like, taking recipes and making them your own is part of the fun of cooking. And now, like, I mean, I know I cook, both my sisters cook, and a lot of the fun of it is kind of just eyeballing it and seeing how well you can do it. Because once you get to a certain point and you're like, all right, I know how measurements work, I know how things work, you can just kind of throw things together and see if it comes out better. And that's how you modify certain recipes. Or maybe you learn, like, okay, maybe that seasoning doesn't go with this meat dish that I like to make. But yeah, all I can say is, as someone who has the firsthand experience and knowledge with La's cooking, you should definitely listen to her.
Good answer, Mick. Yep, cooking is liberation. If you can cook, you can eat well. You won't waste food.
You raised a very intelligent guy.
I know. I'm very proud of him.
You really did. You really did. And if anyone can talk about your cooking, he sure can.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how, like, you passed on to him, but, you know, your grandmother, like, it's amazing how the generations kind of like pass on to each other. And I love that he mentioned about what your grandmother told you. Yeah. And you see, and now he's what, like the fourth generation down, right? Third or fourth. And now he's saying or talking about what this woman said to you, you know. So I think that's just absolutely amazing.
Beautiful.
What I've been, oh, sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say it's beautiful. It made me feel really good when he brought that up, because I even sort of forgot I told him about that. But it's really nice, and it kind of does show cooking is love. People need to eat. It brings people together. You gather around the table. It's love. So.
And you know, interestingly enough, I've been calling my mom and asking her how to make certain dishes that I grew up on, you know, because you know, with COVID and everything, I've been home a lot more. And I thought maybe this is the time to really do that. And so she's telling me over the phone, okay, you put this much and that much. But really, when we think about like our loved ones, as a lot, especially the ones that cooked for us, a lot of times we connect it to certain dishes. You know, like certain dishes that they really made well. And, you know, you say, oh my God, if I could go for grandma's bun, or, you know, whatever her specialty was. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And my husband did the same thing. He recreated, his grandmother used to make soup, and she made noodles by hand, and she rolled them out on the kitchen table, and then with the knife and chop, 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 made the skinniest little noodles. Every Sunday, she made a huge pot of this soup with chicken soup with dumplings in it or noodles.
Oh,
And then his dad would bring home a big pot of it, and they would eat off of it all week, and it wouldn't be the only thing they ate. But when the grandmother had passed away, nobody knew how to make these dumplings. And he talked to a couple of relatives. They kind of remembered what was in it. And now he recreates it. And whenever his siblings are in town, or at least once a winter, he makes this soup with these dumplings like his grandmother made. And I mean, that is priceless. I mean, you can't,
it is.
you know, you can't put a price on that. And it is a wonderful way to, I mean, it's fun, and you know, everybody likes to eat. Really, I think most everybody does. So, what could be better? Not much is better. Rolling around in a lot of money is nice, but you got to eat, right? What did
Lala, I love you.
I think Joseph ate one of those hot pickles, and now he can't even speak. His mouth is on fire. So
all joking aside,
there he is.
That pickle was super hot. I didn't realize how hot it was. I didn't realize how hot that pickle was that I made for Raji. Good Lord. No wonder why you had a hot flash earlier. These pickles are, I don't know how you like range the temperature of a pickle in your mouth, but if this is like a 1 out of 10, I would say it's like a 20. I mean, seriously, holy cow, that pickle was super hot, but apparently that's normal for Raji. Raji is a hot number, so she had no problem with it. But now she's working on the regular dill pickles, because I had the hot pickles and then I had the dill pickles. Oh, she just opened them up. So she's going to be working on the dill pickles now. But they're definitely, they're not hot, but it's definitely very dill. That's for sure. But those are homemade. So it's a very simple thing. It's just basically, like I said, white vinegar, sugar, water, salt, pepper, and then also you just basically boil all of those things together. So after you get all the liquids together, then you put in the actual the sugar and the salt and the pepper, and then you just mix it around, and then you just you let that settle, and then you put it into a jar like this after it's cool enough so that it doesn't crack your glass, and then you fill it up almost to this level, so it's almost to the top, and then you put your pickles in, and then basically you put it into a boiling container of water, and then you put the lid on top so that it basically seals everything in, just like what you heard a moment ago. When she opened it, it like popped when you open it up. It's because it's basically a very fresh seal. And my suggestion for everybody is, every time that you buy some pickles from the grocery store, don't put those pickle jars in the recycle bin. Hold on to them. So you can just cut off that little label, keep it, and then you can make your own pickles. And for most pickles, probably cost about $5 to $7, depending on what you buy. But I can make 2 or 3 jars for about $6. So that's my suggestion. Hold on to your little glass jar, especially if it has the lid on top, the little mason jars, instead of you going out to buy them. It's a pretty simple thing to do. It's easy. And it's the only thing you got to do is just go out and buy some cucumbers. So I'll show you how to make home pickles, I guess, apparently. I never thought about doing a home pickle show, but I'll make a little video. So anyways, I don't know what to say right now first. So first of all, Laura, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing your recipe. Raji, thank you so much for your presence, and also Mick as well. And thank you so much, Marty, up in Ohio, for helping us with the technical production of the show tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to shut up so that Raji can say something before the end of the show, and then you all can say something, and then I'll have the last word to say.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in again. And if you want to get in contact with me, hit me up at Raji at mysouthernexposure.site. It's amazing how with these live shows, it just organically happens. And I love that. We have like an idea of what we're going to talk about, but I tell you, once the show starts, it takes on a life of its own. And that's the beautiful thing about this. It's real talk. We're not sugarcoating anything here. So again, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And on that note, Mickey.
Yeah, and with that, thanks for watching again, guys. We really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate that you're tuning in. As I've kind of gone over week to week, make sure you're staying civically active. Make sure that you are out in the streets. Make sure that you are fighting for the rights of marginalized people. Make sure you're fighting for the lives of trans people. Make sure you're fighting for the lives of people of color, specifically Black people in this country. Make sure you're fighting for women's rights, because just voting is not enough. As I know that we have already gone over throughout this entire episode, voting is not enough. And you need to stop pretending like it's enough. And yeah, with that, I think I'm going to throw it to Laura now, because
La.
Okay, so I just want to say thanks to everybody who's watching and listening to the show. We would love to hear from you, because obviously we can yak, but we want to hear what people would like to hear us talk about and what their ideas are also. And be sure to go to mysouthernexposure.site, get the recipes, to look for these resources that Raji, Joseph, and Mick are posting. If you want to get a little bit more civically active, because I do agree with that. Everybody obviously should vote, but about 55% of the people in America never vote, which in other countries, they lose their lives trying to earn the right to vote. So that's shameful. So you do need to vote, and you need to perhaps do a thing or two beyond that. If you really want to make a difference in this world, that's your responsibility as a human being. But be a good human, eat well, and join us again next week, and email me at laura@mysouthernexposure.site. Love you.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much. Obviously, Raji, thank you so much for coming and sitting in the home studio. She's just about 15 feet away from me on the other side of the home office. So that's what that horrible background is the library behind her. So I apologize. It's not what you've gotten used to so far for her presence. And also thank you so much, Mick, as well. I believe that we've had a great show, and hopefully everyone at home who is watching live tonight, or if they're going to watch it later, they will hopefully enjoy it. And I think the best part of the show is that we didn't have even one commercial break. That's the best part. We didn't talk about any company. We didn't promote anybody. And to be honest with you, being one of the people who wants to promote the companies that I have, I was like, wait, no, I don't want to talk. So it was a good night. There's no reason to talk about companies or anything else like that at all. It's good just to talk about things that we do on a regular basis. A lot of other people don't do that, so I feel so blessed and grateful for our over 60,000 viewers at this point who've seen the show over the last 12 weeks. Well, technically 13 weeks. So I want to re-welcome you to season number 2, episode number 1, because that's what we're doing. I'm doing we're gonna do 12 versions of the show in a row, and then it's a season. Because technically, 4 in a month is enough, and then there's 3 months in a row, so that's a season, right?
Right.
I don't think I'm mistaken with that. So we got summer, spring, winter, fall, then we're good. So welcome to season number 2, episode number 1, and I greatly appreciate everyone who helped with the show tonight. Marty, sitting back there in the background, thank you so much. Brown Sugar. Perlita, whenever you want to call me, you can, or whenever you want to show up, let me know. Next time, we'll have a good conversation, as well as the mistress. I should not say mistress. Sabrina, I should say. Sabrina, the good witch. It sounds bad, having saying the good witch, but she gets a kick out of it. So, Sabrina, the mystic. And Raji knows what that's like, and so do I, and other people who are gifted. So I want to thank everyone at home. I hope you all have a good night. And next week we will be back here on the 30th. So make certain to set some time aside from 7 to 9 p.m. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.